So what we're going to try to do now with these sneakers is to add some depth of character around the individual's face. So first of all, we're going to start off with getting the sort of blue sky effect painted in. This you want to try to achieve. What we've done here is we've mixed the white sneaker paint and the dark blue together to try to get like a nice light blue sky sort of fluffy effect. So some of the areas we're going to do slightly darker than others so that it's giving you the illusion of true sky with the depth to it as well. So we're going to follow this all the way along. You don't need to do it all like really dark. I mean, obviously sky isn't dark color anyway, so we're just using a paintbrush. This hasn't, it's as it comes out the pot, and you can sort of see there the depth we've got with adding. We're not trying to make this level, we're trying to sort of like make it look like genuine fluffy cloud. So we're going to sort of come down to a sort of earline with it, going right up into the hairline, so it's with his hair, so that you come into the hair with the sky to create that sort of 3D effect that you want to achieve with the sky. Once we've obviously done that, we will move on to the next stage, but we're going to bring the clouds right down. You want to keep them in like a straight line at the bottom if you can, really, to be fair. And then it sort of gives you that illusion, give it a little bit more darkness around it. Again, we're not trying to give full coverage here, as you can sort of see. We're trying to leave some areas where it's lighter and darker than others, so it gives you the effect of sort of nice fluffy clouds once you sort of start to get the white put on there. So obviously, get that, obviously allow that to dry, then start to add the white clouds. Now you don't want to sort of do complete straight lines and everything. You want to try to make them rounded and fluffy so that they do represent nice sort of clouds in the sky. Some of the little bits you want to do like little whispery bits off them as well, so that you sort of get that effect of almost like sort of trails, if you want to call it that. So you've got like little whispery effects coming off them. So that's exactly what you want to try to achieve. With it, you want to try to do some so they're a nice bright white, some so it's not so bright, so that you're basically taking a lot of the white paint off the brush to enable you to do that. Just do that for the whole blue area so you get the effect of the clouds. Once that's obviously done, it's going to give a little bit more of a dimension to the person, in the face. Once you've got those clouds done, once we've got that done, we're going to be able to move on to the sort of next areas that we want to achieve below that. Because what we're trying to achieve, with it is obviously the effect of the sky. You want everything to look relatively in proportion. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult because this is on a very small area, these trainers. But you've got to try to make everything look as in proportion as you possibly can, to get the best effect possible. So once we've done that, again, we're just going to let it all dry up. And obviously once it's dry, we're then going to start to add in the mountains. So those are going to be added in to try to give you the effect of the true depth to the picture. So you want to try to sort of draw them very small in comparison to the actual figure and the clouds itself, because that gives you the sort of look that they are right into the distance, and you're looking at the sky, which is all around you, and then obviously the mountains are very, very much into the distance, which is the effect that you're trying to achieve. Depending on the sort of mountain range that you want to draw, you can sort of draw them so that they've got like loads of little peaks and bits stuck up, almost like a sort of desert scene area with a little bit stuck up on the mountains. You can just draw straight flat lines, or you can just draw an horizon like we've got here at the moment. It really is, it just depends what you wish to achieve. If you're just sort of looking for like little tiny hills, then you just sort of draw tiny little bumps in it. But we're going to go through and add in some sort of detailing to that to give you the effect of the mountain range, or whatever you want to call it, that's in the distance behind this figure. We can also change that, which we do. We may want to change it to whatever you want. You know, if you want to round them off, you can do. It's entirely up to you. But you can go through creating this on either side to try to give the illusion that they are a long, long, long way away. And it's almost like a sort of double take picture where you've been taken and then superimposed onto the actual background of a nice sort of scene that you remember well. So if you wanted to sort of convert some sneakers like this, maybe it's just something you want to do at home with your own, you know, to give them a new look. Or you can start your own business doing customized sneakers with all the sneaker range of paints that we do and the kits that we provide. But there, automatically, you can see that the sky is coming alive. The mountain range is looking absolutely fantastic. It's given that true depth now, like that person is sort of almost like 3D'd onto the side of these trainers so that they're stuck right out. So it gives you a fantastic look, you know, to them. So, I mean, it looks absolutely brilliant when they're like that. You just got to try to make sure you get the bottom line as neat as you possibly can so that it's almost like the foot, the base, the foot of those mountain ranges is nice and sort of smooth with a nice sort of line along the bottom. You can use different types of brushes if you want. I think this one we're using is a number 2, I think, brush size. So, I mean, it's not too big, it's not too small. A lot of the detailing work that we're doing is pretty ultra fine, so you got to make sure that you use something suitable. So now we're going to give depth to the actual ground of the area. So this is like creating almost like ground yellowy desert area scenes. And obviously with that, we're going to be adding in sort of like darkness into this as it goes. It's going to start lighter at the top and then get darker as it comes down the bottom with the next sort of colour that we want to add into this to give you that true depth to almost like a sort of barren land type sort of setting. So we want to sort of create that sort of barren land type setting there if we possibly can. You've got to make sure that obviously between every layer that you are drying thoroughly with everything that you do. If you wanted to thin the colours down, you can thin them down with a little bit of water if you wanted. That way at least you can do almost like you can with watercolours on canvases and things. You can almost sort of create the effect of washed out colours if you needed to do that on any sort of customization that you want to do with sneakers and trainers. But you can see there now we're sort of really creating some good depth to the picture. Now we've added in the, you know, the sort of yellowy colour to the setting. I think what I will do is I'm going to bring his shoulders down a little bit further and maybe sort of draw like a t-shirt effect on it at a later stage as well. I think it's going to make it look a little bit better. I want to just bring this sort of desert scene down a little bit further, but you can see there now, I mean, you've got the effect of the mountains in the background. I think I might change them to make them so they're not so pointy in some of the areas, but we've got a really nice good effect there now. So just make it slightly darker in areas as well with that yellow. With doing that, you just apply the paint a little bit thicker if you wanted to. Once we get onto the next stage, we will obviously start to add like much darker sort of colours in there to sort of give you the effect of like, you know, the grass or tumbleweed or whatever you want to call it. So, you know, going in there. So we can add that in now. So you don't want to get an awful lot on the brush to begin with. To make it so it's like very faint. So further away, it wants to be much fainter than what it is closer up. So obviously the closer up, so the further down the sort of trainer that we go to the base, to the sole area, we're going to make that darker. And then nearer the top, we make it much fainter. So it gives you that, again, you've got to try to create that depth there, you know, get the illusion of the depth, you know, onto the side of these. So it all looks as natural as possible. You can see there now where that's going on, it's actually making it come alive and look a little bit better. So we're getting the much lighter in the background, so to speak. And then what's closer up will put in much darker areas, as you can see. I'm just going to go much darker with that. So it's just a matter of applying thicker paint in that area rather than taking some off the brush on the side of the pot and putting it into the distance in effect. So I think we will create like a shoulder line Neck might be a little bit too high, but at the end of the day, I'm not actually an artist myself, so it's not a bad attempt for somebody that doesn't draw for a living. And the purpose of what we're doing is just trying to show you how you can create this with DIY products, or start your own business and become a painter. But I don't think that looks too bad. I think it looks pretty cool for what we've managed to achieve. For somebody that's doing this as a DIY project at home, it's a great start. You know, considering, as I say, I am not an artist at all in any way, shape or form. It's not a bad attempt for the first time ever trying to draw a person and scenery. So it's something completely different. So you can achieve this even as a beginner if you can follow drawings and stuff like that. With this particular one, I looked at an image before I did it and didn't have it printed off, but in normal cases I'd have an image printed off in like stages so that I can see through the stages of how you do it. With this particular one, I didn't actually have that, so we just looked at an image and then memorized it and just drew it, you know, painted it. It's as simple as that, just literally painted it on the surface. So maybe his neck's a little bit too long. It's one of those things. It's like I say, this is to give you the idea that as a DIY project, you can do this at home. The products are ultra safe for people to use, you know, as well as children to use if you wanted to. So the beauty of this, you could get young kids painting their sneakers and stuff like that if they wanted to do something completely different to make them look funky and cool. They can paint things on there. You know, this particular setting is just, you got like the sort of red tick there with the red and the yellow, so it's like fiery. You know, the Nike tick is like on fire, which is quite cool. And then obviously you've got this desert scene, if you want to call it that, with this person's face standing out like a 3D effect on it. So I'm just going to bring this much further down, and then I want to try to bring the sort of darkness down as well. And then I'm going to try to add into it like little bits of like grass, if you like, right at the very, very bottom near this ridge that you can see that we're painting up to. That's where I'm going to sort of go up to it and do it that way. But the depth of quality that it's creating is actually quite good. So now I'm going to use the brown again, and we're going to add a little bit more darkness in by using the sort of brown that we use for the mountain. So the brown that we used for the mountain was a mixture of the green and the sort of brown colour that we've got. So this, I want to now create this sort of darker illusion down the bottom, so it's getting closer and closer to us, so that it sort of gives that effect. Now we're going to start to try to draw like a sort of object just here, almost like a sort of rotten tree with not much to it. It's, you know, we'll try to sort of get that effect, but obviously we've got like a bobbly surface here as well, so it's not making it very, very easy. It's not wanting to sort of flow with the sort of twigs. You know, as I can sort of see what I'm creating, it's not flowing with those twigs, unfortunately. But you're getting the idea. Make sure that obviously, again, you want to try to get very, very small amounts of paint on the brush. Take some off on the side of your pot that you're using, so that you're not getting it too heavy on the surface, because you don't want to make it too dark and too heavy. The whole idea is to try to get some nice sort of detail. You can see we've gone through and put some grass in there now, or whatever you want to call it, like maybe twigs or whatever. But if you just paint them real, we're just going to got like a tiny amount on the brush, just real faintly paint those in. As you can see, we're very, very, very faintly putting those into the picture. And personally, I think it looks pretty cool. You've got that true depth there. We need to try to add in like a shirt, which I'm going to do. We're going to use the same colour that we've done for the mountains to create his shirt. Just going to do like a rounded neck on it, and, you know, sort of make it look that way, but just get the grass coming up. I don't know, I might do a V-neck. I'm not sure yet whether I'll do a rounded neck or a V-neck. I'll have to sort of see how it looks. I think a V-neck might make his neck look a little bit longer as well. So I might just, you know, maybe, I'm just trying to think as I'm going along what I want to turn it into. But, you know, we could carry this design on and carry the clouds going further along underneath that tick on the next section if we wanted to. And, you know, maybe carry the sort of barren land down and thin that out, and maybe put something else on there. You know, maybe could draw like a small building in the distance on there or something like that at a later date. But let's get the darkness in there now. You can see that's coming alive and it looks really cool. It's just literally like desert, barren land with a bit of foliage, you know, green or brown sort of dead foliage on the surface. Looking quite cool, to be fair. It's a pretty good attempt for a first time ever trying to be an artist. So I've got to try to fathom out how I'm going to do the shirt. I think it will end up having to be like a round neck, I think, is what I'm going to end up having to try to do. Because I think it will with a V. It's going to make it look too long. So I want to just try to sort of extend the neck a little bit to bring that down. But I'm going to obviously cover all this up. So we're going to come down with the sort of skin tone into the shoulder line. I want to just define it around the beard as well, because he's got a couple of edges touching the sort of outside perimeter line, which I want to sort of try to touch up so it defines the sort of beard goatee effect area on the face so that it stands out a little bit better. So we're just going to bring that down and just recolor that neck area a little bit deeper so it just looks a little bit better than what it is. Again, with this one we used the white, we used a small drop of brown, and we used some of the sort of yellowy, dark yellowy mustard colour that we used for creating this sort of skin tone colour. So it's gave it the illusion of like a nice tan skin. So it sort of got the effect that we wanted. Again, you know, it looks, to me, it just looks fantastic. So again, this is just using the colour neat. We've not thinned any of these colours to do the skin tone colour. If you wanted to create that illusion of like thinned out, again, you can just obviously either take the colour from the side of the pot or just mix it with a little drop of water. So we're going to bring the colour down now and build up that sort of skin tone as if it's coming down the shoulders and into the sort of chest area. And then I want to crack on and get the actual shirt drawn on there. Again, make sure everything's dried fully before you go to the next stages. Either allow it to dry naturally or just speed it up with a hairdryer and dry it. But I think I will, I'm going to do his neck rounded. I think it's going to be better rounded, with a rounded neck. I think it's going to be much, much better. So you just want to try to bring it down from the sort of crease line is where I'm going to try to bring it from, where the crease line of the trainer sort of meets the sole, and just sort of try to bring it down into that area there. So you've got the effect of like a round neck t-shirt. And then I'm just going to do the colour. It's the same colour that we used on the sort of mountain range, and I'm going to do it. I don't want to do it so it's like a really dark colour. I almost want to sort of do it so it's a little bit sort of washed out in effect. So it sort of gives you that sort of nice effect. But I'm going to bring that down. We're going to cover up some of the little areas, and then we're going to get it on there and just cover that over, slowly build that in so that it gets the effect of a t-shirt on this figure on the side of these trainers. You can literally do any design that you wanted. This was just one. I've always sort of wanted to try to draw a person. Again, practice makes perfect. This will get better and better the more of these that you do. So again, we've got like a washed out sort of t-shirt shade going in here. As you can see, it's got like a little bit of a hint of green and brown to it. Like I say, this was mixed with a green and the brown to give you almost like a mucky effect to the mountains, rather than using a straight brown or a straight green. So I wanted to give it that sort of darkish mucky effect to them. But it's now brought that t-shirt down, which is quite cool. And I think it's coming alive. So I mean, the only thing I would say is it maybe does want at some point maybe a slight alteration to what we're doing here. I might have to like maybe bring the t-shirt up a little bit more and maybe make the shoulders a little bit higher, I think. But for the purpose of this, I mean, it's getting you the idea of what we need, of what we're, at least not what we need, but at least what we're trying to achieve. Just trying to define the neck area there now up against the grassed barren land sort of desert area. And then just touch everything in, make sure it's nice and crisp as the lines. We may put in the effect of arms at a later date, so just put like a little white line so it gives you the effect of his arm and armpit area. But I don't think that looks too bad. And as you can see, you know, with the finished results, that is your one side that's got all the hot, so it's all nice and flamey and on fire. And then as it spins round, it looks superb. I think that's quite cool for a DIY project carried out at home. And that's exactly where I am. I am literally at home, sat on a dining table, doing this at home. Being water-based products, they can just simply wash off. To order, go to the website.